let's talk about Niccolò Machiavelli. Machiavelli was not just a thinker, he was a survivor in a ruthless world. Born in 1469, he lived in an Italy torn apart by wars, conspiracies, and betrayals. He worked as a diplomat, a strategist, and a keen observer of power. He saw rulers rise, he saw rulers fall. And he realized that success in politics was not about virtue, but about strength, cunning, and control. His experiences shaped his most famous work, The Prince, where he had laid down the harsh realities of leadership and politics. Many call him the father of modern political science because he stripped politics of idealism and revealed its true nature. Power is taken, power is not given. Power is taken, not given. And leaders must do whatever it is necessary to keep the power. Machiavelli suffered for his ideas. He was imprisoned, tortured, and exiled, but he did not break. Instead, he turned his pain into knowledge. He studied rulers, dissected their actions, and showed the world that politics is not about morality, but about survival. His insights were not just about Italy, they applied to every ruler, every country, and every era. He exposed the truth that people often refuse to accept. Leaders are not judged by their kindness, but by their ability to hold on to power. His ideas influenced countless rulers, from Napoleon to Mussolini, and continue to shape even modern day politics. Today, leaders use his strategies in ways he could never imagine. They control narrative, they manipulate public perceptions, and they use fear to maintain orders. His lessons remain as relevant as ever, proving that the game of power has not changed. Only the players have changed. Machiavelli did not just write about politics, he revealed its soul, or the very soul of politics. Those who understand him rule the world. Leaders throughout history, they have followed Machiavellian principles to gain and maintain power. These strategies, whether used for control, expansion, or survival, they have shaped the course of nations. Those who mastered these tactics, they ruled for years, while those who ignored their limits, they often met downfall. The art of ruling is not about morality, but about practicality. A ruler must understand the nature of power, the weakness of people, and the necessity of control. The greatest leaders did not rely on goodwill alone. They used intelligence, they used fear, they used force, and they used deception. They built systems that ensured loyalty and crushed oppositions before it could grow strong. Paralyzing individual intelligence is one of the oldest tactics of control. When people do not think for themselves, they become easier to govern. Leaders who followed Machiavelli's advice, they discouraged critical thinking and they discouraged independent reasoning. They filled educational systems with controlled narratives, ensuring that people learned what the ruler wanted them to believe. In totalitarian regimes, intellectuals were either silenced or made to serve the state's propaganda. In 1933, Adolf Hitler purged universities. Hitler purged universities of independent thinkers, ensuring that education aligned with Nazi ideology. Joseph Stalin eliminated scholars who questioned his policies, making sure only state-approved ideas were taught. National prejudice is a powerful tool to unite people under a leader. By making citizens believe that they are superior to others, these rulers create blind loyalty. Machiavelli understood that patriotism could be turned into a weapon. Leaders who followed this tactic, they portrayed outside as threats and justified their own aggressive policies. In Italy, Benito Mussolini promoted the idea of Italian supremacy, claiming that the Roman Empire must be revived. In Germany, Hitler used racial ideology to justify expansion and war. By supporting national prejudice, these rulers ensured that people saw them as protectors rather than oppressors. Hiding everything that is going on in the world prevents people from knowing the truth. A ruler who controls information, they control the minds of the people. The Soviet Union under Stalin, China under Mao Zedong, and North Korea under Kim Jong-un, they all followed this strategy. They all followed Machiavellian strategy. They controlled newspapers, they controlled radio, they controlled televisions, they banned foreign books and censored the internet. They made sure that citizens only saw what the state wanted them to see. North Korea remains a modern example of complete media control, where people know little about the outside world and believe their leader is almost godlike. Aggressive international relations. Aggressive international relations are a sign of strength. Machiavelli advised rulers to act first rather than wait for enemies to strike. History remembers leaders who expanded their territories, not those who played safe. Napoleon Bonaparte built a massive empire because he acted aggressively. He attacked Prussia, he attacked Austria, he attacked Russia before they could unite against him. In 1939, Hitler invaded Poland, forcing the world into war. In modern times, Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, it follows this Machiavellian approach, seizing power before opposition becomes strong. Using the full scope of military services necessary for a ruler to protect the state. Machiavelli warned that mercenaries and auxiliary forces are unreliable. A strong national army is the backbone of power. Napoleon introduced mass conscription and ensuring that France had a steady supply of soldiers. Hitler and Stalin, they built military industries that focused on national defense. The United States maintains global dominance by spending over $800 billion annually on defense. A nation without a strong military is always at the mercy of stronger powers. Prohibiting absolute freedom, it prevents chaos. Machiavelli understood that too much freedom weakens the state. Leaders who followed this principle, they controlled personal liberties while maintaining the illusion of democracy. Stalin, he banned political opposition, but he called his rule the people's government. Mussolini outlawed strikes and protests, but claimed he was protecting workers. In modern times, China monitors internet activity and censors dissent while promoting social harmony. The illusion of freedom, it keeps people obedient while ensuring the ruler's control remains absolute. Controlling one's subordinates is essential. A ruler must never allow his advisors to become too powerful. Stalin frequently purged his own officials, ensuring no one could challenge him. Hitler eliminated leaders within his own party during the Night of the Long Knives in 1934. Kim Jong-un, he executed his own uncle to prevent a potential rival from gaining influence. Fear keeps subordinates loyal. If they believe betrayal will lead to their death, they remain obedient. Dispensing justice without courts, it eliminates the slow process of law. A powerful ruler does not need legal systems to punish enemies. Stalin sent millions to labor camps without trials. Saddam Hussein personally decided who lived and who died in Iraq. Who lived and who died in Iraq. Even in democracies, secret operations, they remove threats outside of legal boundaries. Justice in the hands of a ruler, it is a weapon rather than a moral principle. Using military force to maintain power, it is a necessity. Leaders who rely solely on speeches eventually fall. Machiavelli said that a prince must have both arms and laws. But if one must be sacrificed, laws are less important compared to armies. China used military force in Tiananmen Square in 1989 to crush protests. The Soviet Union sent tanks to Hungary in 1956 and Czechoslovakia in 1968 to suppress uprisings. Dictators who hesitate to use force, they are replaced by those who will. Creating followers of the ruler's resume ensures loyalty across generations. Hitler's youth programs trained children to serve the Nazi state. Stalin promoted loyalty to communism through propaganda in schools. Mao Zedong created the Red Guard which followed him blindly. These leaders understood that true power does not just control the present but shapes the future. Cultivating the cult of the leader, it turns a ruler into a godlike figure. The people do not just obey, they worship him. In North Korea, image of King Jong-un, they are placed everywhere, and citizens must bow to his portraits. Stalin's face was on posters, statues, and coins. Mussolini's speeches, they were broadcast daily, making him a constant presence in Italian life. When people believe their leader is chosen by fate, they will never rebel. Oppressing public opinion, it prevents the growth of opposition. Machiavelli advised rulers to ensure that no voice of dissent could grow strong. Stalin banned free speech. Hitler controlled the press, and China today censors the internet. A leader cannot allow people to question his rule. Changing the true meaning of force is a tool of control. In 1984, George Orwell, he described how authoritarian rulers use language to reshape reality. Dictators, they have always done this. Stalin called forced labor camps re-education centers. Hitler named the mass killings of Jews the final solution. Modern governments use terms like enhanced interrogation instead of torture. Words shape thought, and thought shape action. Teaching people the history of one's own rules, it ensures a leader's legacy. Napoleon rewrote history to make himself a hero. Stalin removed Trotsky from photographs to erase him from history. In China, school books glorify the Communist Party school. Leaders who control history control the future. Capturing one's name everywhere, it ensures immortality. Stalin renamed cities after himself. Saddam Hussein had his face printed on every banknote. Leaders who spread their names, they ensure that even in death, they remain symbols of power. Benito Mussolini, he ruled Italy with an identity, following many of the political strategies that Machiavelli recommended in The Prince. Machiavelli believed that a ruler should be cunning like a fox and strong like a lion. Mussolini demonstrated both qualities throughout his life. rise to power and rule. Like a fox, feel like a lion. He understood that power was not given, but taken. And he used force, deception, and strategic alliances to achieve his goals. In 1922, he led the famous march on Rome, where thousands of his black shirt supporters, they pressured King Victor Emmanuel III to appoint him as a prime minister. He did not wait for power to come naturally. He seized the moment, just as Machiavelli advised. Machiavelli emphasized that a ruler should not rely on others, but should build his own strength. Mussolini did exactly that. He did not trust Italy's weak democratic system, and instead he dismantled the system step by step. By 1925, he declared himself the leader, transforming Italy into dictatorship. He controlled the press, eliminated opposition, and used propaganda to shape public opinion. Machiavelli warned that rulers should not depend on the love of their people, but should instead make them fear him if necessary. Mussolini understood this principle very well. He crushed dissent using secret police, censorship, and violence. Anyone who opposed him either disappeared or was exiled. Machiavelli also recommended that a ruler should maintain the appearance of morality while being ruthless when needed. Mussolini mastered this tactic. He presented himself as a patriotic leader who would restore Italy's former glory, but behind the scenes, he made deals with criminals and used brutal methods to silence enemies. He knew how to manipulate emotions using powerful speeches and grand promises to make people believe in his vision. He revived Roman symbols. He spread the idea of a new Italian empire and convinced people that he alone could make Italy strong. War and military power, they were central to Machiavelli's philosophy. Mussolini followed these by aggressively expanding Italy's influence. In 1935, he invaded Ethiopia using chemical weapons and massive military force, ignoring international criticism. He wanted to show that Italy was a great power, just as Machiavelli advised. In 1939, he invaded Albania, proving his willingness to use military strength to gain control. Machiavelli had warned that mercenaries and outside forces, they were unreliable. So Mussolini built a strong army to carry out his ambitions. However, he miscalculated his country's strength when he joined World War II in 1940, thinking it would bring him more power. Instead, it led to his downfall. Machiavelli believed that fortune favors the bold, but warned that luck alone cannot sustain power. Mussolini was bold, but he ignored the limitations of his own country. His decision to align with Hitler and enter World War II, it backfired. Italy was not prepared for a prolonged war, and by 1943, his own people turned against him. He was removed from power and he was arrested. Though he tried to escape with German help, he was captured and he was executed in 1945. Now let's talk about Napoleon Bonaparte. He followed many of Machiavelli's recommendations from the book Prince, as he rose from an ordinary soldier to Emperor of France. He understood power, he understood ambition, and he understood strategy better than most leaders of his time. He used force, he used deception, and he used intelligence to shape history, just as Machiavelli advised rulers to do. He knew that fortune favors the bold, but he also believed in creating his own destiny through careful planning and ruthless decision making. He did not wait for opportunities. He seized the opportunity. In 1799, he staged a coup and overthrew the weak French government directly. He knew that the people were tired of instability and chaos after the French Revolution. Machiavelli advised rulers to take advantage of crisis, and Napoleon exactly did that. He presented himself as a leader who could restore order, and within a year, he became the first consul of France. By 1804, he crowned himself as emperor, showing that he did not need the Pope or anyone else to legitimize his power. Machiavelli had warned rulers never to depend on others for their authority, and Napoleon followed this advice perfectly. Machiavelli believed that a ruler must balance fear and love, but should always prioritize being feared if necessary. Napoleon was loved by his soldiers. But he made sure they also feared disobedience. He maintained strict discipline in his army, and those who failed to follow orders, they faced severe punishment. This made his military one of the strongest in history. He built the Grand Army, which at its peak in 1812 had over 600,000 soldiers. He used this army to dominate Europe, winning key battles like Australia in 1805 and China in 1806. He conquered vast territories and controlled most of Europe by 1810. Machiavelli also recommended that a ruler should not rely on mercenaries or auxiliary forces because they are unreliable. Napoleon followed this advice by building a national army that was loyal only to him. He introduced conscription, making every Frenchman a potential soldier. His strategy worked, and he became nearly unstoppable for a decade. He changed European warfare with his speed, with his surprise attacks, with his ability to outmaneuver larger armies. Machiavelli advised rulers to control information and shape public opinion. Napoleon mastered propaganda. He controlled newspapers, ensured that only his victories were publicized, and he created an image of himself as a savior of France. He commissioned paintings and statues that portrayed him as a heroic figure. He knew that perception was as important as reality. Machiavelli warned that rulers must respect their people's traditions and beliefs to avoid rebellion. Napoleon understood this, and he implemented legal reforms to gain support. In 1804, he introduced the Napoleonic Code, a new legal system that provided equality before the law, religious freedom, and the protection of property. This made him popular among ordinary citizens and ensured stability in France. He knew that even an autocrat must offer benefits to maintain control. However, Machiavelli also warned rulers not to overstretch their power. Napoleon ignored this advice. In 1812, he invaded Russia with his massive army, believing he could crush the Russian Empire. But he underestimated the harsh winter and the Russian tactics of scorched earth, where they destroyed their own land to deprive his troops of resources. By the time he retreated his army, they had lost more than 400,000 soldiers. This was a turning point in his downfall. In 1814, after facing defeats from a coalition of European powers, he was forced to abdicate and he was exiled to Elba. But he was not ready to accept defeat. In 1815, he escaped. He returned to France and regained power in what became known as the 100 Days. The people and army welcomed him back, showing that his leadership still inspired loyalty. However, at the Battle of Waterloo in June 1815, he suffered a final defeat. He was captured and exiled to Saint Helena, where he spent his remaining years until his death in 1821. Napoleon's life proved many of Machiavelli's ideas about leadership and power. He rose through intelligence and military strength, controlled public perception, ruled with both fear and admiration, and he created a lasting reforms. But he also ignored Machiavelli's warnings about overextending power. Overextending power leads to his downfall. It's led to his downfall. His story is a lesson in ambition, strategy, and the fine line between success and failure. Power has never been about fairness or justice. It is about control, it is about strategy, and it is about ability to influence minds. Mussolini and Napoleon, they mastered these principles to rise and rule. They knew that people follow strong leaders, not virtuous ones. Today, the same tactics are at work across the world. Politicians, they manipulate emotions, they spread the selective truths, and they maintain dominance through calculated moves. The world may have changed, but the rulers of power, they remain the same. Those who understand them, they rise. Those who ignore them, they are forgotten. Machiavelli's wisdom, it continues to shape history, proving that in politics, survival is the only true measure of success. Thank you.